Hey, I just got back from I just got back, but I want to get actually I was gone for maybe 20 minutes anyway. I had to run to the bank because they screwed up on something, so I had to settle that dispute. And then I also had to then I also stopped at Panda Express, got some Chinese what they call it's like the Americanized version of Chinese food. Basically it's not really Chinese anyway, but it's like an American version. But that's not the point, but really. But we're gonna get into a political video, and basically Donald Trump is basically getting mugs about reality here. He finds out that denial is not going to stop the pandemic. A fake president who once claimed that the worst days of the pandemic are behind us is now acknowledging that it has surged through much of the country and will get worse before it gets better, which is the actually only truthful thing he's ever said anyway. But he insisted that it was safe, that people could go back to work, that schools could reopen, and that he could hold packed indoor Klan rallies, that he could even hold a full-fledged, boisterous, bunking-filled nominating conversation if all were well. Only now it is all crashing down around the fake President Trump, the fake president who shunned masks and pressured states to reopen, and promised a return to the campaign trail, finds himself canceling Klan rallies, scrapping his grand convention, urging Americans to stay away from crowded bars and at long last embracing, if only half-heartedly, wearing a mask. It may not be the death of denial, but it is a moment when denial can no longer appear to be a viable strategy for the fake President Trump. For more than 3 years in office, he proved strikingly successful at bending much of the political world to his own vision of reality. But after 6 months of the coronavirus pandemic is turning out to be the one stubborn, inalterable fact of life that he cannot simply force into submission through sheer will. The fake president's springtime confidence that he could cheerlead the country back to a semblance of normalcy in time to kickstart the moribund economy and power himself to a second term in November's election has proved unequal to the grim summertime medical and autopsy reports emerging from the South and West. With 60,000 new cases and 1,000 more deaths being registered each day, Trump has been forced this week to retreat from the rose-colored assessment of the health of the nation and his fake presidency. Not that he has admitted any change. As he revived his coronavirus briefings this week, he still insisted that most of the country was doing well, which they're not, and offered upbeat predictions about conquering the virus, which he has no plans for. But his actions belied that view as he canceled the convention to Jacksonville, Florida, citing the same health care concerns that he disparaged and shifting it abruptly from Charlotte, North Carolina in the first place. Even the decision to begin holding the briefings again was itself an admission that the crisis he wanted so desperately to be over in practice accelerated even as he falls behind the former Vice President Joe Biden by double digits in the polls. But Trump would rather have been talking about almost any subject other than the virus, but there he was again at the lectern 3 days in a row, dutifully reading the warnings that his advisors had given him to read. This is the case when you line it all up. It's the last season of The Apprentice. We've got 100 days left, and the fake reality TV star just got mugged by reality, said Rahm Emanuel, who served in Congress and as a White House chief of staff to the President Barack Obama before becoming mayor of Chicago. His defenders said that Trump has responded to the situation as it has changed. With this virus, we entered a realm of the unknown unknowns, making decision making tough for anyone, including this fake president, said Christopher Ruddy, who's the chief executive of the Newsmax and a friend of, and not really a friend of Trump's. Concerning the conflicting advice he's gotten from medical experts, I think he's done a great job on the economic response and a good job on lowering the daily death count. The public will eventually see this. No, they don't. And speaking before the cameras this week, the White House officials insisted that Trump had not changed his view of the virus at all, and that he always took it seriously. No, he hasn't. Speaking on the condition of anonymity, however, senior Republican officials expressed exasperation that the fake president, in their view, mishandled the virus, leaving the party vulnerable to not only losing the White House but Senate as well. The public has grown increasingly worried as caseloads soared to twice as high as they were during the earlier week of the pandemic in March and April, where just only 30% of Americans believed that the crisis was getting worse in early June. 66% now believe that it is getting worse, according to Gallup. Three-quarters of those surveyed said that they expected this disruption to continue to travel, school, work, and public events to continue until the end of the year or even into next year before the situation begins to improve. He needed to be the pandemic fake president. Instead, he became the pandemic denier, said Dr. Jonathan Reiner, a prominent cardiologist who treated the former Vice President Dick Cheney. Unfortunately, when a president refuses to accept a scientific reality, Dr. Reiner added, his words and actions are emulated by large numbers of Americans who then dismiss the seriousness of the pandemic with a predictable disastrous consequences. From the start, Trump has repeatedly underestimated this virus, liken it to the flu, frequently predicting that it will simply disappear on its own, and denouncing media hysteria over the disease, insisting that cases will go down to almost zero, and then prematurely declaring it a victory in the war against it. Back in March, he said that no way am I going to cancel any convention and contend that we're going to be in great shape long before then. A month later, citing health experts, he declared that the worst days of the pandemic are behind us. When North Carolina's governor insisted that the convention in Charlotte would have to be limited by public health measures, Trump angrily had moved most of it to Jacksonville, where he promised a full event. By this week, he was grudgingly bowing to the reality that the virus has spread, not ebbed, admitting that it would get worse before it gets better, and canceling Jacksonville, saying it's not the right time for that. After his initial effort to resume arena Klan rallies was a bust in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the second one scheduled for Portsmouth, New Hampshire, was canceled, Trump now says he will conduct tele-Klan rallies, basically meaning that he's going to hold his Klan rallies on television. The rising infections have also forced Trump to be more supportive of masks after months of scorning them. When he first announced that the public health experts wanted the public to wear masks, he immediately undercut the message by declaring that I don't think I'm going to be doing it, complaining that it would not look good in the Oval Office as he greeted foreign visitors. In the months since, he posted a Twitter message that mocked Biden for wearing a mask, disparaged a reporter who insisted on wearing a mask to a news conference because you want to be politically correct, and insisted that masks were a double-edged sword, and agreed that some people might only be wearing the mask to make a political statement against him. And that's not what it is. Over the past 2 weeks, he wore one in public where he would be photographed for the first time and told Americans that it was an act of patriotism to wear one, which it's not. If you can, use the mask, he said in the television brief, and when you can, use the mask. Even so, he has not worn one himself in public again, not even when visiting his Washington hotel for a political event or hosting the Little League players on the South Lawn to mark the reopening of Major League Baseball. Kayleigh McEnany, the White House press secretary, insisted on Friday that Trump had not adjusted his approach to the virus, saying he has been consistent on masks and always supported them. No, he hasn't. He hasn't changed. Well, he hasn't changed about being an asshole, but that's the one thing. The reason he wants to bring back these grievances to get information out there, disinformation, because he's always wrong and everything. Smellian Kanjab, the fake president's counselor, acknowledged that the spikes in infections followed states reopening, but blamed the governor. Some of these states blew through our gated criteria, and they blew through our faces, and they opened up some of the industries a little too quickly, like bars, she told reporters this week. And it reminded that it was the fake president who encouraged them to reopen quickly, but she pointed to the time he chided one state, Georgia, for going too far. Trump and his team continued to insist that he had handled the virus decisively, which he hasn't, always citing his decision early on to limit travel from China and the increases in the supply of ventilators and testing capacity. The fake president likewise continued to press schools to reopen fully and in person in the fall, even though his own son's private school will not. But even then, he gave there some ground this week. He gave some ground this week by acknowledging that some schools in areas hard hit by the virus might need to delay reopening. But in much of the country, school leaders, like many governors and mayors, are paying less attention now to a fake president whose predictions have fallen flat and are paying more attention to the numbers on the charts. If a political convention in Jacksonville is not safe in the coronavirus age, many schools are coming to the conclusion that it may not be safe for them either, at least not on a full-scale basis. The virus and science, not politics, will determine spread of the virus and whether and when schools and our economy can reopen without having to slam shut again. Thomas R. Friedman, a former director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, said on Friday that facts matter, science matters, and supporting and being guided by public health matters.